Good evening, everyone. This is a regular meeting of the Urbana Community Development Commission. However, prior to our meeting, we're going to have a public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the public to provide input and make comments regarding the proposed amendment to the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium Consolidated Plan for fiscal years 2015 to 2019. Notice of this public hearing was published on March 13, 2018 on the City of Urbana website. I now declare this public hearing open. If anyone desires to express their views regarding the proposed amendment to the City of Urbana and Urbana Consortium Consolidated Plan for fiscal year 2015 to 2019, please come forward and be recognized. You have anything? Okay. Your written comments are also welcome, as the public comment period for this amendment is from March 27th, which is today, till April 27th, 2018. Okay. Let's see. No one has indicated that they would like to participate in this public hearing. So therefore, seeing that there are no further comments, I now declare the public hearing closed. Okay, thank you. We'll now proceed to the regular Community Development Commission meeting, and I now call the meeting to order. Next, we will have a roll call. So, Kelly, would you like to proceed
Yes.
with roll call?
Fred Cobb,
Here.
Michael Brown,
Here.
Chris Diana,
Here.
Reverend Robert Freeman,
Here.
Ann Hines Silvis,
Here.
Karen Hodgen Jones,
Here.
Jerry Moreland,
Here.
Abdul Hakim Salam,
Here.
James Winston.
Here.
We have a quorum. Everyone is here.
Thank you. Okay, next is the approval of minutes of the previous meeting. So we'll take a moment and just scan those and see if anyone wants to make comments regarding those minutes. Okay, are there any corrections or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move that the minutes be accepted as read or studied with any corrections or addition.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written with any necessary corrections. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the minutes are approved as written with any necessary corrections. Okay, next on our agenda, I had a moment ago, petitions and communications. Do we have any of those?
No, we don't.
Okay, audience participation. Would you like to, okay, no audience participation. Next is staff report.
Okay, so you received in your packet our staff briefing for activities and accomplishments that since the last Community Development Commission meeting. We received various emails from HUD regarding any notices and trainings, workshops. One in particular was in regard to our annual action plan for fiscal year 18-19, which basically gives direction on when to submit the annual action plan, particularly since at the time there was no budget. And so with that, we have an extension, so to speak, of when to submit. So that is why we will be bringing our draft annual action plan at the next meeting in April, and there will be a public hearing before the meeting for that. And then it will go to council mid-May, and then hopefully then we can submit, and hopefully we'll hear soon what the budget will be and the allocations. So that was a big one. Also, you can see that, of course, we are working on the draft plan per the schedule from HUD, working on our neighborhood newsletter. We have our neighborhood cleanup May 12th from 8 to 2, and so we're working on the newsletter to send out to the new target areas per the map, with an explanation of why they're getting the newsletter and a little bit about our consolidated plan, annual plan process, and how the different funding sources that we have. So working on that. It's about done. We're also had a little bit of space, so we're putting like some ads from Public Arts and some others. So then that will go out. So we are working with Cunningham Township Supervisor's Office regarding the Consolidated Social Service Funding application process. We, in working with the township, have also talked to council about staff having more input in reviewing the applications and then presenting to council funding, which and a lot of council were in agreement because they don't know the agencies as well as like staff in dealing with them. So that is a new thing that we are doing. We'll see how it works. We have a training this week, I think it's Thursday afternoon, to go over the guiding principles and the application and the changes so that agencies are aware. We also completed our 18-19 mini plan. It's like pre-award, and we're waiting on approval from HUD for that. We submitted an amendment to our 16-17 annual action plan, and we're also waiting for approval for that. We received notice from IDA that our round 3 application for the abandoned property program was approved for $55,000, so that's good. Couple that with money that we have left over from round 2, we should be able to have maybe 3, 4, 5 properties that we can acquire and demo, so that'll be good. As you can see, we're also working on the Emergency Solutions Grant, preparing information related to the city as required by the state, Grants Accountability and Transparency Act, with regard to the Emergency Solutions Grant. And then you can see also the number of emergency grant and access grant and senior repair service projects that we have done to date under the Housing Rehab Coordinator. And we also have, the city has a new financial system, and so Dawn, our grants compliance specialist, has been attending different trainings on that. And We've been attending our regular meetings with the Continuum of Care, Council of Service Providers to the Homeless, Housing Authority Board meeting, commissioners, and attending webinars as well. So that is our staff briefing. Let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions, comments? Thank you very much. Okay, next, we have old business. We don't have any agenda item under that. Does anyone want to bring up any old business? If not, we'll go to new business. Under new business, we've got a resolution approving certain home investment partnership program loan documents between the City of Urbana and Bristol Park or Bristol Place Residences, LP.
And Matt will talk about that.
Okay.
Sure. So the resolution, the title of the resolution really states what this is. The Urbana Home Consortium is considering being a funding partner and providing home funds to the affordable rental new construction at Bristol Place in the city of Champaign. One of the main topics that I want to talk about, or at least start off with, is really addressing why the city of Urbana is, working with a project in the city of Champaign. And the reason for that is this is undertaken as part of the Urbana Home Consortium, and home funds are received by the city of Urbana from HUD on behalf of the Home Consortium, which is made up of the city of Urbana in the capacity of lead entity, as well as subrecipients, city of Champaign, and unincorporated Champaign County. So the city of Urbana administers those funds, which means that we are responsible for subgranting them to the city of Champaign and Champaign County and making sure that they are used properly. And in light of guidance from HUD received during our 2015 home monitoring and among other reasons of just efficiency, and rather than instructing Champaign staff on how to perform subsidy layering and underwriting, it could be something that's done by us. We decided to simply go ahead with us as the lead entity administering these funds rather than subgranting them to the city of Champaign. And like I said, instructing their staff and duplicating time and effort, we decided that we would just go forward with this, especially considering that we have recently undertaken new construction rental activities at Highland Green. So our procedures are already in place, and it simply makes sense to go ahead and do that. So with that obvious albatross out of the way, I wanted to go into some of the details of the development. It's expected to be a 90-unit development, which, like Highland Green, is expected to get, or has already been approved for, low-income housing tax credits, which provide the primary financing mechanism. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of a $23 million total development cost, of which the developer is requesting $415,452 from home funds. All of those home funds are City of Champaign allocation. No activities from the City of Urbana would be affected by this proposed use of funds, because if not used for this project, these funds would have been used, in many cases were used, for full home improvement projects in the city of Champaign. So it's using Champaign's funds to undertake a different eligible use than what they usually do. So going into a little bit more, obviously this is a very multi-layered development. There's a lot of different funding sources. As I said, the main funding source is the tax credits, but they're also getting construction loans. The Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago has approved $750,000 grant. There's the Illinois Infrastructure Fund, abbreviated IFF. They're putting in $2.2 million, and private for-profit banks are also involved in the development as well. 84 of the units of the 90 units are going to be rented to low-income households. They're required to be because they will have Housing Authority of Champaign County project-based vouchers in them, which are required to be rented to low-income households. The remaining units are either going to be manager units or sold at market rate, which makes this a mixed income development. And the home funds are critical to the project, as is the case with many low-income rental developments. The budget is very tight here, which requires government subsidy to just make it feasible. In terms of goals and objectives and the programmatic impacts, this is a development that has been a priority for the City of Champaign for a long time, as Janelle, acting neighborhood programs manager for the City of Champaign, can discuss if you're interested. But we also have made reference to it in our 5-year consolidated plan and in the annual action plan amendments that were recently approved. In terms of fiscal impacts, as I stated, it would have no fiscal impact in any way on programs in the City of Urbana, but it would go a long way towards committing home funds that otherwise would need to be committed by July 31st, 2018. And programmatically, as I mentioned, this has been talked about in plans for years, and the addition of affordable housing in the City of Champaign really would have a positive impact on the City of Urbana as well, because housing affordability is an issue that really does transcend both communities, and adding affordable housing units really reduces the burden on both. So I really do believe that this would result in a positive good in terms of the housing affordability crisis that we face in both communities. So with that in mind, city staff recommends that the Community Development Commission forward the resolution to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval. And I do also want to emphasize that the documents that were passed out in the memorandum, they're draft documents. Our city attorney is looking over them. The developer's attorney is also looking over them, so they are very much subject to change, but they do contain the home requirements that we have to put in there. Other elements might be changed, but they would be in keeping with our home HUD-dictated requirements. And again, they don't force us to sign anything. They simply allow the mayor to sign the agreement, assuming that the developer meets all of the home restrictions and regulations. So with that, I want to turn it over to any questions, and also Janelle Gomez is here to answer questions on behalf of the City of Champaign as well.
Okay, questions?
I would have a couple questions that I have. It's not really specifically related to the money we're talking about, but I know I and a few others have asked questions about this project at various times. Affordable housing is certainly a need in the area. The cost of this particular housing project seems to be excessively high for what's coming out of it. And so it raises some questions in my mind as to what kind of a project it actually is. You have a 90-unit project here with an average per unit cost of $265,000, which nobody builds rental housing for $265,000 a unit. So and I'm sure you had that question a few times in a few venues.
Well, not exactly. I think part of the cost obviously is subsidizing the future rent, that the developer is going to take a lower rent to rent these properties. Additionally, it's built as, I think, 65 of the units are single-family homes. That'll be a lease purchase program that anyone who enters the contract at 15 years will be able to purchase the property. So 65 of the units will be single-family properties. We're looking at the multifamily. The agreement is not done yet, but the multifamily units, which is the remaining about 25, will remain rental for the life of the low-income housing tax credits, and likely at that time would be sold to, or the developer could keep it, could sell it to the housing authority, or could sell it to, someone else who would probably reapply for a 4% tax credits and maintain the affordability of the complex. No one specifically asked about the per unit cost before, but that's my reading on the general cost.
I appreciate the answer. It's
Yeah.
really irrelevant whether it's rental or purchase property. That's an exceedingly high cost per unit. I mean, especially when you consider land cost or lack thereof in a project, which would normally raise the price substantially higher. If this was being built as a rental project, you would have to be renting the units for an average of more than twice what the rentals are just to break even. And that's way above the rental market for here. So my question kind of still stands as to where the budget on this project got to over $23 million for 90 housing units.
Okay. Beyond what I've answered, I can't answer more specifically, but I think when we come back to council, or we can follow up with the developer, Advis LLC, who is really wonderful advocate for the project and probably could answer you directly. So I'll have maybe Matt put you in touch with him, and we can talk about the per unit cost. I mean, we are building them at, I guess, a somewhat higher standard than a regular, rental housing unit. I mean, that's part of it, but I'm not sure that accounts for the whole cost. I think what it's going to come down to is the risk and the ability to rent them, to very low income persons. So.
Right. That being the case, though, it makes it tough to have those as rent to own at anything resembling a reasonable cost for that housing unit, or a normal market cost for that housing unit. It would have to be well above that, which makes it a questionable rent-to-own project in my mind for people if you're doing a rent-to-own on something that you're paying an excessive ticket amount for. It's not really a very good rent-to-own.
I can also add, as part of our home underwriting, to be able to provide home funds to the project, part of it is we do have to make sure that costs are reasonable and comparable to other rental developments in the area. And I've been working on that over the past couple of days, and it's not done, but the contracts would not be signed if there are glaring red flags. And one of the comparables that I've looked at is the Highland Green development that we did back in 2016. And that was a 33-unit development at, I think, $7.7 or $8 million. So about a third the number of units and a third of the total, or 2/3 of the total development cost. So really, I've been comparing it to that development, and it has actually been pretty comparable. And I think that really is just the cost of doing good low-income rental properties.
It could be that that project had a lot of extras in it, and for the record, I was asking the same question about that project when that project was being done.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I've got a question on, it was said that 84 of the 90 units are for low income, and I was wondering if there be units set aside for veterans.
There are
If
not
so, how
currently
mu-
units set aside for veterans
No.
specifically, no.
Okay. When's the completion anticipated?
So the clock starts on the housing tax credits, an 18-month clock as soon as they close on sign the agreements, which is expected to happen May 21st. So they're expected at 18 months to be leased up. That would take us into about the fall of 2019. They're expecting to start construction as early as May 1st, with the contractor just moving some dirt around, and the agreements to be approved around May 21st.
Okay. Also, I was wondering if Champagne's going to handle all of the application and approval process, or is Urbana going to handle some of that?
For the tenants?
Yeah,
was
for
it?
tenants.
The property will be owned and managed by the Development Corporation, and we, in the housing tax credits and the home regulations, stipulate, who could be eligible, but when it comes to specifically vetting tenants, that'll be the development company. They do have, anyone who was relocated from the area has the first right of refusal, So they will get those list of tenants. I think we currently have a list of about 10 who are interested in coming back. But they'll be reached out to again to see if they would like to be a part of the rental development.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just one comment. I'm just saying, I've been hearing about this for so many years, and when I was on the Housing Authority for a long, long time, so I'm just happy to see it come to fruition, so.
We are too.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments or questions? Not? Thank you very much. And at this point, we need to go ahead and get a motion for one of the three actions or options to forward it as presented, to forward it with changes, or to not forward it. So, do one of the commissioners want to make a motion? You can make a motion for any of those three.
I so move that we forward with recommendation number 1 with, as stated.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to forward the resolution authorizing execution of the loan documents with Bristol Place Residences LP to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval. Any further comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay, one afterthought, and this pertains to the benefits to Urbana. The benefits would be that some residents of Urbana would have that housing option over there. I was wondering if there are any financial benefits to Urbana as far as, payment personnel costs, as far as payment to our personnel, things like that.
And one of the reasons that we're going through all of the home, doing the requirements for the project, is that the city of Urbana receives the total 10% admin cap. So we're paid off the top of our home allocation to the entire consortium to undertake this work.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Next, we have an ordinance approving an amendment to the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium, in parentheses, Urbana, Champaign County, for fiscal year 2015 to 2019 consolidated plan.
Okay, so before you is a proposed ordinance that's approving an amendment to our consolidated plan, and it involves updating the citizen participation plan and our geographic priorities section of our consolidated plan. Our original consolidated plan was submitted in May of 2015 to HUD, and it was approved, and it provided 5-year goals and strategies for using our community development block grant and our home funds. And part of through the consolidated plan, we also are required to develop and follow a detailed citizen participation plan. And we had a process, but not necessarily a plan. And in addition, because the assessment of fair housing that HUD came and said that we needed to do, we decided that we needed to update our citizen participation plan. Well, now that HUD has pushed back the date, we decided that we would just go ahead and update the citizen participation plan and the geographic priorities section, which is related to the community development target map that we did. Because the consolidated plan defines the areas, which, according it shows in the amendment, the specific areas, and so because of our updated map, we have to, need to update this section as well. So, the amendment is available for public comment, starting today, through, April. And, if this amendment is approved, then the amendment would be presented to the city council next month and approved, and then it would then go to HUD for approval. So, as you can see, fiscal impacts, there's no direct impact of city funds, either general or federal. However, because of the revised target area, it would mean that funding could be used in the new areas of our target map. So that could change. And then programmatically, the updated citizen participation plan, it actually clarifies the steps that we need to do for plans, reports, amendments, our process, and it also, a revision is necessary to direct the funding identified in the target area revision. So what we recommend is supporting the ordinance and recommending that the commission forward the ordinance to the city council with a recommendation for approval. And if you have any questions, please let us know.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Anything really significant changes that you wanted to point out?
No, specifically, I mean, in the proposed amendment, it actually lists like the different pages that in the consolidated plan, so it updates the executive summary, and there's a section that's actually citizen participation. That section will be updated, and it just is more clarifying of the process. I mean, we stated in the consolidated plan who we contacted and such, but this lays out if it's a substantial amendment, particularly, I guess one change would be if it's not a substantial amendment, that we have a process to approve any amendments that don't meet the definition, which can be done internally. We wouldn't have to have any public hearings, public notifications, or any public body approval, and it would just be included in the budget. But that, again, it's non-substantial. Most would be substantial, and therefore we would go through a certain process of noticing it on the website, giving a 14-day notice, having a public hearing, public comment period. So that's pretty much it. And then again,
Now,
yes.
Who would be working on the wording for the updates? And
who would work on the dates?
no, the wording that goes into the updates, or has that already been established?
It's been established. I mean, it was similar to other citizen participation plans that we have done. We just added more about the non-substantial amendments because there really wasn't a process much for that. So,
Okay.
and then if there was any, it would be like minor changes that we
Okay,
did.
and then city council will have the last say on it. Is that correct?
Yes, it will go to them, but we will certainly note in our memo to them any discussion here as well as what if it was unanimous, if there were questions, so council, in our memo, it's noted what happens in this meeting. And we also attach the unapproved minutes so that they can see what was discussed as well.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Again, we have the three options to forward it as presented here, or to forward it with some recommended changes, or we can not forward it. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we forward the ordinance approving an amendment to the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium consolidated plan with a recommendation for approval.
We have a second, motion and a second to forward the ordinance as presented with, as presented. Any further comments or questions? Oh, with a recommendation for approval. Comments, questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it. The motion carries.
I did want to let you know that if we get any public comments over the next month, that they will be attached to the amendment that we will send to HUD. So that HUD will know what the comments are if we receive any.
Okay. All right. Next, we have a resolution evidencing the intention of the City of Urbana, Champaign County, Illinois, to transfer volume cap in connection with the private activity bond issues, single-family mortgage revenue, and related matters, in parentheses, private bond cap allocation, dash Illinois Assist Program Series 2018, in parentheses. Okay. Translation?
This is actually a difficult one to translate, and last year when we took it to council, it was difficult. It's just difficult to explain in that it's not money, but it's using lenders, and that can be used for projects. So we, after looking at different options, and we contacted IDA to see if they needed any bond cap that they could then put for down payment assistance. They never contacted us stating if they needed it or not. So we decided to go ahead and divide it in half and give half to the Assist program and half to Eastern Illinois Economic Development Authority. And it lists here in the background, private activity bond is a tax-exempt bond issued by a local or state government for the purpose of financing a project. Rather than, for a local government to actually do it, it's very difficult. So that's why we cede it to another entity who can do it, who has the expertise and the knowledge. And because this it's not any debt to the city, which is good. And so this year, they raised the per capita, which is $105 per population. And so even though they had our population go down because it went up per capita, we have a total of $4,331,250 that we can cede to another entity to be utilized. And it shows here the different options for affordable housing projects, which we have been giving to the Eastern Illinois Economic Development Authority for multifamily housing or housing related, to a not-for-profit, mortgage certificate credits. That is what the Illinois Assist program, which it then helped. They have, according to the attachment with the memo, they sent a listing of how many addresses or loans that they made. So there were a total of 21 loans totaling almost $2.3 million. And they show it by loan amount, by zip code, and there's a map as well. So we think that this is a very good program and assists and helps home ownership. Purchase price limits and the income limits are listed, depending if it's a non-target or a targeted area. So that's why we decided to cede to the Illinois Assist program. And then Eastern Illinois Economic Development Authority we have done them for several years, so as of right now, according to an email and letter that they sent us, they have at least $8.3 million that is set aside for a multifamily or housing. And if we add this, there'll be at least $10 million that would be available. And according to Eastern Illinois Economic Development Authority, that this private activity bond cap works with the 4% low-income housing tax credits, that it works really well. And they said that if there were any projects that became available, they'd be willing to meet to explain how the activity works with the 4% low-income housing tax credits. So based on the requests and the possible uses, we recommend that the resolutions for allocating the bond cap to half to the Assist program for 2018 and the other half to EIEDA for possible neighborhood initiatives. And with that, if there's any questions, hopefully I
Okay.
explained, or hopefully I did not muddy the waters. If I did, please ask me any questions, and I'll try to answer.
Okay, so actually you covered both of these last two items.
Sorry,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Actually,
that's-
they could have been,
Yeah,
done
right.
together, so.
Okay, I was just wondering, by doing it this way, how certain is it that none of the money will be going back to the state or another entity?
Well, there's a process that the state has. So by doing the resolution and then taking it to council, as long as we get the letter and the supporting the resolutions or to the state before May 1st, then it's locked in
It's
at
locked.
these places.
Mhm.
And then if it's not used, then they can still lock it in for at least like 3 years or more. So
It's pretty certain.
pretty certain, yeah, that once we email and send the letters and the resolutions and whatever else we need, that it's locked in to these two entities, and the state won't get it.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
But there's just a comment. Just a comment. It's not actually funds. It's
Right.
the ability to provide that level of funding in a tax-free bond. So it's not
Right.
like we're giving money.
Right.
We're just
Mhm.
giving our allocation of the
Mhm.
tax-free bond, which is based on our population.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to, we have this discussion every year.
Yes.
Kind of-
Yes, it comes up
Kind of
every
hard to
year.
wrap your mind around it because it talks about dollars, but it's
Right.
not really dollars. It's the bond capacity
Mhm.
that's
Mm.
valued because it's a tax-free.
Right, and because
Yeah.
we're a home rule government, we have this ability to do this, so.
I'm glad you understand.
Well, I try.
Okay. Other comments, questions? If not, let's see, we just have the option down here to get it done by May 1st. I'll entertain a motion, and you can be creative or direct. Anyone want to make a motion? As we proceed with the,
So what are, I'm moving that, as written, we approve this and forward it along to the council for approval? Is that correct, Kelly? Well, then, that is what I move.
okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second as presented. And any comments, questions? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, that exhausts our agenda for this evening. Do any commissioners have any other issues you'd like to address at this time?
I just have one quick announcement. There's a documentary film called Resilience, which focuses on the detrimental impact of child stress, something that I think matters a lot to our commissioners. And the Department of Education at the University of Illinois will host a screening of this documentary on April 25th with a panel discussion following. I'll be moderating the panel. The documentary lasts about an hour, and the panel discussion will be about an hour. It starts at 3:30 in the afternoon, something that may be of interest to some of you. So I just thought I would mention it.
Where's that screening?
It's at the Department of Education in room 2. Great. I know Cunningham also hosts periodic screening of this documentary, another place to see it.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? Thank you for your participation. Meeting is now adjourned.